Good morning, everybody. Today, the request is to work on some fascia release, and potentially fascia stretching. So, if you don't already have two balls, give yourself two balls that might be. I've got two tiny ones that I'm going to use today, which is great. Or you might have to just make sure they're the same size. These two are different sizes. So just giving you examples, mine are spiky. These ones are smooth. You might do something smooth or spiky, big or small, whatever works for you. Um, Fascia is something that runs along every part of our body, and it's kind of similar to our tights. And our tights kind of have this elastic, and they cover the entire part of our body. And fascia, connective tissue, is like that. And it doesn't just cover the entire sheath of the body inside the skin, it also covers the sheath of the muscles. It is part of the ligaments and tendons, and we have fascia lines all over our body. And so when fascia isn't sliding and gliding, it can get kind of sticky and adhere. And so, what we want, especially for pain and mobility and health within our entire body, is we want our fascia as much as possible to be slidey and glidey. So an example, and I think I've said this to you before at some point, an example of a tensegrity or a fascia line, tensegrity being that ability for stretch, tension, and release, starts from the top of the big toe, runs under the back of the foot, all the way through the back of the heel, back of the leg, the knee, up through the glute, all the way through the back, through the neck, and finishes at the top of the eye. So that's the back line of the body. There's also fascia lines that come across the chest, across the upper back, and also go diagonally through the body and twist through the body. So in yoga, we often use various movements for moving these tensegrity or fascial lines. And we do that particularly when we're doing movements that have any sort of dynamic um, movement with it. So anytime we're doing a constant movement and we're finding flow, that can be nice to release and move the fascia. Fascia is moving all the time. So all the movements that we do, we're moving fascia. But there are some things that we can do to get into the fascia just a little bit more in various areas. And we're going to start with some movements that we've done before in our shoulder work. And this is part of the tensegrity series. So your balls, whatever you're picking, can be, if the middle of the spine is here, you can take your balls and place them anywhere from sort of the middle upper back up to sort of just below the neck, that bony process at the back, anywhere along there. So sort of upper trapezius, kind of rhomboid area, down to the thoracic area. Now, I like to have a little bit of a block, and I set myself down on the area first into your constructive rest. And if you want, we'll do an arrival here, but if you like the idea of the balls here, you might place them there now, or you can just sort of pick up one shoulder and do that in a moment. So I'm going to leave my balls for a moment as we come into an arrival and constructive rest. Feet flat on the floor, knees hip width distance apart, hands might be on belly or alongside the body. Support under the head if you like. Taking some conscious breaths to fully arrive here in this space. Arrive on your mat and in your body. Witness, notice what's here. You might notice your energy, your mood, sensations in the body. And then imagine at the place just below the sternum where the ribs come together, and you might put your hand there. Imagine that you have sort of a half balloon, and this half balloon or your diaphragm, as you inhale, is going to expand down towards your navel. And as you exhale, it'll come back towards the hand that you have at the lower ribs. As you do this imaginary expansion, also allow the ribs to breathe out to the sides of the body so that there's this outward radiation of breath, and then allow the breath to contract or come back to that place of center, almost like big balloon, breathing, expanding downward towards the navel, out towards the sides, expanding back into the floor, and then contracting back to center. And then as your body inhales, just pick up that right arm and right leg and extend them long. And as they exhale, just bring them back to that starting position. So arm might be alongside the body. So inhale, just reaching opposite arm and leg long. And then back, and try and keep this a real sort of slidey, glidey movement, really soft. And as you do this expansion of the whole right side of the body, just notice what's here. You might notice areas of tightening or holding. You might notice areas of softness and ease. You're just straightening arm and leg away and then bending that knee, putting the foot back on the floor, arm down the side. A couple more times. And then allow the opposite arm and leg to reach. So left arm, leg reaching on inhale. Exhale back to that starting position. Just starting to warm the joints, the knee, the hip, the shoulder. Notice what you feel. Be curious. Both sides of the body might be quite different. Trying to keep this sense of sliding, gliding, easeful movement. And then allow the foot to come back. Excuse me. Take the balls and slide one under one shoulder into that spot that I showed you earlier, the other on the same side, same area of the other side. If at any point the balls being on the back of the body don't feel great, then just ditch them, get rid of them. From here, we'll take the thumb and pointer finger together, making what we call little owl eyes in tensegrity. So the circles of the owl eyes will come together, fingers spread apart. Let the circles be down by your navel or a little lower towards the pubic bone. And then we'll allow the arms to reach out just a little bit and then close back to center. Big wings, keeping the lower tips of the shoulder blades on the ground. And again, you're doing a sliding, gliding motion. Now, if the spot that you've chosen for the balls on your back doesn't feel that great with this movement, then you can shift and change. Head support can be helpful based on the size of the balls that you're using. Sometimes less is more. So if you feel fatigue quite early on in any of these movements, then just take a pause. Now we're bringing the hands back together, but then rotate the palms to face towards your face. Pinky fingers touch. And then the same posture with the hands, arms are doing the same movement, but this might feel quite different as the arms have been slightly rotated, the palms now facing towards you. Might feel this upper chest, upper back. And then all the fingers come together to touch just above your navel. Allow the hands to now move, elbows parallel to each other, right angle with the elbows so that the hands are just above your forehead. Keep the lower tips of shoulder blades down, and then try and reach the arms straight, but they won't really go straight, palms towards the wall behind you, keeping those fingertips pressing into each other. Come back down that same path. And again, if you need to move the balls at any point, you can do that. Or you can ditch them. A sliding, gliding, soft movement. Good. A couple more here. And then allow the arms to reach up towards the sky, backs of the palms touch. And we're opening the arms down, palms down towards the ground. Rotate palms to the sky and then come as if you're going to do a big clap. Backs of the hands, then rotate to touch, out to the side, and then back in. Good. When that feels like it's enough, just release the balls. You might roll a bit to one side and then the other to let them go. Take the knees up into the chest. Now, the knees don't have to squeeze in all the way, just let knees be comfortably into the chest. And then we'll move the legs in any sort of way that feels good. So you might sort of rotate legs and hips as if you're kind of doing a little egg beater or um, sort of flailing in space a little bit. Just kind of moving in a way that you don't maybe normally move in your yoga practice. If you choose a rhythm of movement, then You might change the direction to rotate the other way. So again, we're looking for slidey, glidey, easy ways to move. So I'm sort of drawing circles with my feet, kind of like an egg beater, letting the knees and hips move with the feet. And at any point, you can go into some of the movements that we often do, like maybe hands on knees and rotate legs apart, together and back in. Maybe rocking side to side, massaging the low back, maybe circling the knees the opposite way or rotating the legs together, just playing around. Rotating them the other way. And from here, release the feet down. Take whatever support you might have behind your head and let that go. And press feet into the ground. I'm going to take the same support and slide it under my pelvis. And I'm just going to reach the right leg long, anchor the heel down. So you might start to feel a bit of a stretch into the front of that right hip. The left leg, foot is on the floor. And then without using my hands, I'm going to draw that knee into the chest. And then I'm going to let the foot come back to the floor. And so I'm going to keep this almost bouncy so that the foot kind of bounces off the floor and comes back to the chest. And just see how that feels for you. It might be that your low back doesn't love it potentially. And if that's the case, you might hold in stillness with the knee into the chest or the foot on the floor. Your choice. So listening to your body. You might hold the knee into the chest after a few bounces, maybe hands on the shin, compressing the hip into the joint, feeling the stretch into the opposite side. The toes of the extended leg, you might have them point up. Maybe you rotate them out to the side, see how that feels. Maybe you rotate them inward and see how that feels. Give yourself another breath. And then we'll bend both knees, placing the feet on the floor, and then extend that left leg long. Let the right foot be onto the floor, and then draw the knee in, and then release the foot down. That's almost like a little bounce of the foot. See how that feels, keeping the belly a bit contained. You might continue this bouncing for a bit, or allow the knee to come into the chest and hold, or the foot to stay on the floor. Eventually find a spot to pause. The leg that's extended, that left leg, you might turn the toe out to the side, external rotation or internal rotation, whatever feels good in this moment, or keep the toe pointing towards the sky. Another breath. We'll release both legs long if that feels okay for you. Both arms stretch long. And then you might do a little kind of wiggle through the hips. If that doesn't feel good for your low back, you might have feet on the floor, knees bent. You might wiggle fingers and toes. It's almost like you're kind of pedaling out the feet, pedaling through the hips. And then both feet will come flat to the floor. Anchor the feet down, lift the hips, and release. Roll over to one side. Use that top arm to press yourself up. And you're going to be on your elbow. And you might even kind of have the hands supported. Lean back into the cushy part of your bottom on the lower side. And then let the other leg press foot into the floor. So you've got, I might even be up a little higher on the forearm. So we've got one leg on the ground, and you're sort of leaning into the flesh of that buttocks and kind of leaning back. The other foot, knee points up. Now the leg that's on the ground, it's softly bent. We're going to flex the foot, and then almost like we're tracing the heel along the shin of the leg that's pointing up to the sky. You're going to do a little lift and lower. Almost like you're kind of pressing out through the heel. Try and keep this a little slidey glidey. It's going to be kind of small. And then the opposite arm, the arm that's not on the ground, as the leg comes close to the ground, the arm is going to be sort of up, almost like you've got a ball, one of those big beach balls. And then as the leg comes up, the arm goes towards the floor. So you're still kind of leaning back, and we're looking for that slidey glidey movement, anchoring the foot, the stabilizing foot into the floor. These are tensegrity movements. There is a tensegrity series at Ajna Yoga, Agna, AJNA.ca, if you want. Good. So let's do a couple more on this side. Nice. Good. And then you can use that top arm to support, come down onto the lower arm, and just extend the top leg straight, pointing toes towards the side of the room, chest pointing towards the side of the room. Just do a little lift and lower. We did this last week, pressing through the heel. See that the lower part of the side of the waist, the torso, isn't collapsing down too much. And then we'll do a bit of play here, lifting that leg up, reaching it towards the sky. Just start to circle the foot around. Maybe you can kind of undulate the leg a bit. A bit more circling into the foot. And then maybe you can take this leg all the way out in front and anchor the toes down towards the ground. Just getting a bit of a stretch into the outside edge of the leg. And kind of playing around with what parts of the toes and the foot might be touching down. You might move a little bit through the hip there. Nice. And we'll bring that leg back in, roll onto the back, feet flat on the floor, hold opposite elbows, and then let the elbows head to one side, knees to the other. So again, it doesn't matter if the feet are close or apart. It's more about what feels okay in this moment for you. And we're looking for that sliding movement. And eventually you'll roll over to the other side and use the arm to sort of set yourself up. We'll take the top leg and anchor it down, knee pointing towards the sky. The other leg is on the ground, and you can kind of be perched up or sort of slouching back into it. And we're looking for a little bit of that slouching back into it. So you're leaning on the lower hip. The lower leg sort of wraps around the other leg, almost like you're sliding the shin, the back of the lower leg along the shin, pushing through the heel. It's a little lift and lower. And then the opposite arm moves away and then together. So it's like spreading apart and then squeezing together. Yeah, so sliding, this nice fluid movement. Good. Let's do a couple more here. And then you'll release that leg down. And the top leg is going to stretch long. I'm going to come down to my lower arm and then lift that top leg and lower. Little lift and lower. And just notice the hip you might sort of push down on so that you're not slouching super into that lower part. You're still keeping some integrity there. You might notice that this side of the body could feel a little bit tighter or looser than the other side. And then we'll draw the knee in and reach the leg up and just straight up towards the sky, like we're doing our pose of infinity, pointing the foot, maybe rotating through the foot, and then just sort of rotating around the leg, the hip, just doing some kind of wave like movements to the leg. Trying to move the body in so many different ways. You might come back to that movement of the foot, maybe circling it the opposite way. And then take that leg straight out in front of your chest and let the foot kind of curl down to the floor. You might move through the hip a little bit as you move the foot, maybe all the toes, maybe the heel touches down, and then you come up onto the toes and you let another part of the foot come down to see how that feels. Little movements here. Good. From there, we'll draw the knee in, press up, come to your tabletop posture, and give yourself a couple cat and cow. So inhale to lengthen, exhale, scoop belly round. And anchor into that left hand. Reach the right arm up towards the sky and then thread through underneath the other side. And then keep this dynamic, keep the movement going. Inhale to lift up. Exhale, threading underneath the opposite arm. Maybe one more. And then anchor that right hand, lifting left arm up towards the sky. Exhale through. And just one more like that. That Hands then shift forward, come to your plank pose. You might have knees down, especially if toes don't like to be curled under. You might have the forearms down. Maybe the toes do tuck and the knees lift. Your call. You can stay in your plank as long as you like. Eventually, we'll come down to our bellies whenever you're ready. Hands are going to be out to the side for our awkward cobra. So tented fingers. Let the tops of the feet anchor. As you draw the front ribs in, lifting up, take a look over one shoulder. Inhale to come back to center and release. On your exhale, lift up and look over the other shoulder. And just keep this sort of flowy so that you're moving through. There's no real stop. You're going from side to side, through center to release. Keeping the breath moving. Keeping this movement going as you look over one shoulder. Back to center and down, looking over the other shoulder. Upper back can move, shoulders can move. When this feels balanced, then release. Hands might stack under the forehead, bend the knees, maybe windshield wiper the legs side to side. And then you know that it's up to you. You can come maybe into child's pose. Maybe you come to tabletop again and do some hip wiggles. Maybe you come into downward dog, your call. You can also stay on your belly. I am going to offer some movement for stretching out the fascia with utilization of our downward dog so that the hands are really close to the front of the mat, the feet are back. And starting with a real bend to the knees, the heels might be lifted, belly in, looking towards your feet to start. And then straighten one leg so that the heel comes down to the ground. Lift the fingers of that same hand as the leg that's straight, and then look towards that hand. Breathe into that whole side as you open armpits towards the feet. Give yourself another breath, and then release the fingers and bend that knee. Spread the sit bones nice and wide, looking towards the feet, and then press the other heel down, straighten the opposite leg. Lift the same fingers of that side and look towards the fingers. And then release fingers, bend both knees. Look towards the feet, and then straighten both heels down towards the ground. Push into the hands, lengthen the whole body, draw those front ribs in. And then when you're ready, coming either into a forward fold or all the way up to standing. You might do that halfway, lift to rise, exhale to fold, and then press the feet into the ground and reach and lift, rising all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart. And we'll inhale, lift and reach. Exhale. Good, one more. Nice. Exhale. Lift and reach up again, but this time let that left knee come up and into the chest. Pause and hold. Breathe here. Feel your belly. Feel the stability, the strength. And we'll step that left foot back. And you might like to have the heel lifted for this. The heel can also go down. Taking the right foot over to the side a bit. Keeping the front ribs in. Imagine that you have something radiating between both of your arms as you lift them up. Shoulders staying soft. And then we'll let those arms come down the same path. So it might be imagining that you have a stick between your arms, keeping torso nice and steady, belly drawing in. And then from here, as we lift the arms up, keeping that same distance between the hands, you'll shift the arms and let them come over to that right side. Lift the arms up and then shift and let them come over and down to the left. Yeah, so that we're moving up through center, over to one side. Nice slidey, glidey up through center, over to the other side. Good. So keep this super soft and gentle through the shoulders so that it's like you're holding onto your big beach ball and you're just moving the beach ball to the left, up above your head and to the right. Good. Let's do one more each way. Nice. Step back foot forward. And from here, we'll reach the arms all the way up, that right knee coming into the chest. Connect to the core. Find a point to fix your gaze, balance and hold. Breathe. And then slowly step that right foot back. You might have the heel lifted, walking left foot over a little bit. Find that big beach ball or imaginary stick between your arms, front ribs in, pause. Allow the arms to come down and then lift up. And the back leg, you're getting a stretch in the front of the hip likely. So we're just starting with that up and down, centered, front ribs in, just feeling how that is on this side. And then taking that imaginary ball and heading it down towards that left side, through center and to the right. And so nice and soft, front ribs in. We're trying to keep it fluid, graceful. Nice. You might do one or two more just to balance out the sides. Coming back to center, stepping the back foot forward. Good. Now this is my favorite one. I'm going to bring a hand to the belly and to the lower back. Bend the knees. And then we're using the belly to start this movement. So the belly is going to draw in and you're sort of doing a pelvic tilt and then release. And we're doing sort of undulations of the pelvis. But as you do this, imagine that the belly is guiding this undulation. So it's like a pelvic tilt for sure, but you're keeping it so fluid so that the knees might be moving, the hips fully. You might be feeling this a bit in the thighs, the legs. Keeping it kind of wave-like. Some buoyancy into the feet. And then let the hands creep up a little further so that the hands are sort of below the, so around the solar plexus. And then let that part squeeze in and move here. And we'll move up again, letting the hands maybe move one hand to the sternum, imagining the chest sort of coming in so that the wave is creeping up the body. And then shift the hands to the side of the ribs. And you can keep this wave going or start to let the movement go more side to side so that you're waving side to side through the ribs. The hips might get a bit involved, and that's fine. And then start to create more of like a figure 8 movement, led by the area of the ribs, the chest. Yeah, and then see if you can move your figure 8 that opposite way. And we often do this one either seated or in cat-cow. See about maybe changing this to a bit of a barrel roll. And then you might barrel roll the chest the other way. Good. Nice. Now this next one will fold forward, keeping a real bend into the knees, but we're letting buoyancy come into the hands so that we fold forward and we kind of push off and back up. And we fold and kind of push off. So it's not really about staying stagnant. It's just a neat little push. And just see how that feels. Bend your knees as much as you need. You can keep it smaller. Do about 2 more. And then we'll come down into a fold. Dropping the head, you might give yourself a little rock side to side. Softness through the face and jaws. Reach hands forward and feet back. Come to your plank pose, nice and strong and stable. Staying in your plank as long as you like. And lower the knees and come all the way down to your belly. Let the feet be apart, hands under shoulders. Our cobra pose. So we'll lift the chest, draw the heart forward, front ribs in, and then lower down. And so moving a few times into this. Good. And then from there, we'll reach the arms out sort of in a V from the head and allow the legs to go nice and wide as well. We'll anchor the toes down to the ground, but we'll lift the right arm up. And don't worry about how far you can go. You're going to lift that right arm up and like you're reaching it all the way over to the other side so that that whole right toe through the right side of the body, you might wiggle the fingers, reaching it over to the other side, wiggling fingers, and then release that right arm. Lift the left arm up, reaching it over to the right side. So a bit of a twist, wiggling fingers, anchoring through the toes. Our starfish twist. Another breath. And then release. Hands might stack under forehead. You might windshield wiper the legs side to side. And then it's your call. You could come into tabletop and maybe circle the hips around. You could go into child's pose or downward dog again. Just explore moving in any way that feels good for you. Just a couple more breaths. And eventually we'll come either into a forward fold or all the way up to standing. Pressing into the feet to lift, reach and rise up. Exhale, hands to the heart. We'll push down to lift and reach. Exhale, hands to the heart. Good, and one more time. This time, coming into your chair pose. And know that we've talked a bit about finding a position for your pelvis that feels good. Arms might be forward, connecting to your core. Breathe here. Feel strength, stability. And then we'll push into the feet, stand nice and tall, and step that left foot to the back of mat. So a warrior two stance, bending into that right knee. Open the arms. And let the palms reach the same direction as your chest. And then bend at the wrist so that you're sending the fingertips away. And then reach the arms a little bit wider, like you're squeezing the shoulder blades together. So that you're bending at the wrist, the fingertips are going as far away as possible. And then give yourself a little bit of a gentle hug, but keep this fluid so the arms are going to open right away again. And it's almost like you're sliding the fingers along a wall and then spreading open. So you're not rounding at the chest at all. We're going side to side. Yeah. So the chest is upright, moving this front line of the arms. Fingertips spreading as far away as possible. Good. Next time, arms go wide. Take the right arm up towards the sky, left one down. You might look towards that back foot if that feels okay. Drawing the belly in. And then extended side angle. We'll take that right arm to the thigh, maybe left arm alongside the body or behind the back, whatever feels best for your body. And then anchor into the feet and come up and step that back foot forward. Really light on the feet, like you're just sort of doing little hops. Playing on the feet a little bit, little hops. Trying to keep these kind of quiet and soft. And then we'll step that right foot back to your warrior two, letting the arms open, bending at the wrist so the fingertips move away. Open the chest a little bit more, squeezing shoulder blades. Keeping this nice and fluid, arms cross over and then open up right away again. So coming back to that sense of big wings, flowing and graceful. Maybe one or two more. And then we'll take that left arm up, right arm down, breathing into the side body. You might turn to look at the back foot if that feels better for neck. And then allow the arm to come down to the thigh. Maybe opposite arm, right arm goes alongside the ear, or maybe behind the back, turning chest open to the side of the room. And then press down to lift up and step that back foot forward. And give your legs and your arms a bit of a shake. Just let everything kind of shake and go. Yeah. So we talked about at the beginning, we're going to find a ball. We talked about how the fascia starts at the big toe and wraps around the whole back line of the body and heads into the neck and then the upper eye. So this one is kind of like foot rolling, but it's more of a foot pressure. So we're starting with the ball close to the toes, kind of the ball of the foot area, and other foot is back a bit, and you're just doing pressure down. Just making sure your other foot is at a position that feels okay. And then you're going to roll the foot, the ball, so that it's now moving down the foot towards the heel. Just small little movements. Lift up, roll a bit, and then press down. Lift up, roll a bit, and press down. Lift up, roll a smidge, press down. And you're slowly making your way to pressing firm and strong down on that heel. Good. And we'll release that. And then head over to the other side. So starting closer to the toes, other foot is back so you're nice and stable. So you're doing a press down. Roll a bit so you're a little bit more on the ball of the foot and press down. A little lift and press. A little lift and press. Micro movements here. So fascia work often includes a lot of ball work or even those big rolling. It's kind of like a human rolling pin. Those foam rollers, because you're using the foam roller or the ball to sort of break up the stickiness between two layers of fascia, or when fascia gets stuck because of injury, it starts to kind of knit together a bit more. And onto the heel. Good. I'll take the ball off to the side, doing a little bit more shaking again. Nice, letting everything shake. Beautiful. And we'll inhale to reach all the way up. Last forward fold, exhale. You might do a couple of those bouncy folds if you like. Or you might pause and hold, releasing through head and neck. Maybe a deep, deep, long inhale, a big sigh. Maybe one more. Eventually bending the knees more to come all the way onto the ground. And turning to whatever side works for you to lower down. I like to do this lowering down with scooping the belly, tucking the tail, rounding through each vertebra. Slowly lowering without that plop if possible. And then stretch arms and legs nice and long, wiggling through the hips. And once again, we're going to lift up the arms and legs and shake. Just let everything shake, shake, shake. Really, really go for it. You can get loud. You can make some noise. Shaking and tapping is great for our fascia as well. So you might like to tap the legs. Might tap the arms. Give it a big, big shake, and then deep inhale, exhale, let the limbs go. Take another deep, long inhale, big sigh to release. Take a moment to witness, to notice how the body is now. Feeling your energy, maybe buzzing. Maybe there's areas that have shifted sensation since the start of your practice. Rest, relax. Adjust if you need for your Shavasana. Begin to shift your awareness back to your body, noticing, witnessing, maybe deepening your breath. You might start to wiggle fingers and toes. You might give yourself a long stretch, maybe a yawn. Maybe knees come into the chest, whatever feels good. Taking your time. And keeping this inner focus. Eventually, you might roll to one side, a breath or two of transition. And find a comfortable seat where hands can rest on the thighs or come up to the place of the heart. The invitation, if you like, is to bow your head towards your heart in a sign of gratitude. And gratitude to yourself for practicing today, for listening to your inner teacher. And gratitude to those who have brought this ancient South Asian wisdom and practice to us. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. Slowly lift your gaze. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your practice. Bring our hands to our forehead for clarity of thought, to our mouths for purity of speech, to our heart for openness of heart. And we close with a little bow. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Peace, peace, peace.